here's what happens. Probably over 40 years ago in a small town, nearly everyone became a hashtag. Everyone except a kid named Victor. Apparently he only survived because he got saved by a creepy looking boy dressed in all white.
That kid scares me.
Regardless of my suspicion of the kid, helped Victor, and Victor somehow ended up surviving over 40 years in this town. This should have been impossible because every night in that town, creatures come out of the woods and kill people. Every single night. And the people can't leave either because every time they try to leave, they get looped right back into the town. Fast forward those 40 years and Victor is now grown. Well, as grown as a man-child can be. Anyways, a new family comes into town and that family is the Stevens. You only really need to remember the father Boyd and the son Ellis, as the mother quickly becomes a memory. This is because she went crazy in the town believing that it was all just a bad dream. She started logging everybody out of life, and she was about to do the same with her son Ellis, but Boyd logged her out of life himself. This led to Ellis hating his own father because he had previously tried to warn his father about his mother not being well. But instead Boyd decided to better the town instead of staying with his family. Ended up being good news and bad news. Bad news is that his wife is now just a memory. But the good news is that he found talismans that protected everybody's houses. These talismans, when placed on a door, prevent the creatures from coming in. After finding the talismans, people were safe for about 3 months. You see, everything changed when a new family called the Matthews entered town. You have the parents Jim and Tabitha and the kids Ethan and Julie. After coming into town along with another new arrival named Jade, everything spirals out of control. Basically, this is what happens. A girl by the name of Sarah decides to kill Ethan because she's hearing voices of some creatures that we don't know of. Tell things that they shouldn't know and tell her to do bad things in order to free everybody from the town. This sounds as sketchy as it is, but I can't prove that they're not telling the truth. Anyways, because she tried to kill Ethan and failed, goes on the run and Father Kotri takes her in as a prisoner because he believes that it could be God that's speaking to her and that there might be in a new chapter of the Bible. But he will never find that out because he's dead. Yeah, unfortunately he dies shortly after telling Boyd that he's holding Sarah captive. Father Kotri and Boyd being best friends, Boyd decides not to kill Sarah. Instead, he decides to take her on a trip with him into the forest.
At night.
Doing this because he thinks that the voices that she hears will help him. And while they're getting into the thick of it, you know, that right there is a backyardigans reference because they're going to the thick forest. Yeah. So like into the thick of, okay. Anyways, here's what the other characters are up to. Jade and Jim have been working on a radio tower to signal the outside world. With the help of Donna and everybody at the share house. Side story, the share house got attacked because somebody wanted to get some yams, but he never really even got the yams, instead people just got killed, so yeah. While everybody's doing that, Tabitha is digging in the basement of the house trying to find out where the electricity comes from. Which is about enough time for Boyd and Sarah to get lost in the forest and trigger some arachnophobia. Boyd and Sarah find a lighthouse and hear a horn of a ship, but they can't reach it before nightfall. Luckily for them, Sarah sees the boy in white who leads them into an anywhere tree. It's a tree that will teleport you somewhere random. Boyd goes in and gets separated from Sarah because he ends up in some sort of chimney. Back with Jim and Jade, they get the radio working and we hear just about the creepiest thing on this show.
Is this Jim?
Sorry, what?
Jim Matthews.
Who is this?
Your wife shouldn't be digging that hole, Jim.
Which leads Jim to run back to the house just to find out that the basement collapsed in on itself. And he probably believes that Tabitha is dead. But the season then ends with two major things happening. The first is that Tabitha ends up underground in what looks like the Upside Down. While there, she meets Victor, who tells her that this is where the creatures sleep during the day and that they're now safe there. The second major thing is that a whole bus rolls up into town. The second season picks up right at the end of the first season, where Boyd is trapped in a hole, Tabitha dug a hole, and a bus full of new people arriving to town. The hole that Tabitha dug led to a tunnel, which is where the monsters sleep during the day. It also has the symbol that Jade keeps seeing on the walls. Fortunately for Tabitha, she was able to escape the tunnel before nightfall thanks to Victor. Jim, however, following his cryptic message, tries to find Tabitha, but instead his house collapses on him, which leads to the death of Tom, who is the barkeeper, and Jim walking with a limp for the rest of the season. This bus full of new people just really meant a bus full of new problems. There's really only 3 people you need to remember from the bus in season 2. First, there's Elgin, who had a dream, no, not the good kind, that they shouldn't be in town, and the rest of it he can't remember. Unfortunately for Elgin, he has this dream while already in the town.
Terrible timing.
The second person is Marielle, who is Christy's fiancé and a recovering drug addict. This complicates the relationship that was developing between Christy and Kenny. By that I mean Kenny gets friend-zoned after confessing to Christy.
That's rough, buddy.
The third person you need to remember is this deviant by the name of Randall. I'll admit it, I wanted Randall dead all season. You know what? I still do. Anyways, Randall likes to do things his own way, which causes more headaches than it solves. You see, after Jim receives that cryptic message at the end of the first season, he believes that they're in an experiment or a simulation. He goes to Randall for help. Randall takes this a step up, claiming that if they are in an experiment, somebody in town must be in on it. The person who he thought was in on it was Donna, who he tries to kill. Luckily, he fails, thanks to the help of Boyd, whose story this season goes like this. You see, at the start of the season, Boyd is stuck in a well, but he is saved by a guy by the name of Martin. Martin here infects Boyd with his blood, saying, "My blood is your blood now," which might have temporarily fixed his Parkinson's. Anyways, when Boyd gets out, he starts having visions of a music box. The idea is whenever the music plays, something terrible happens. And right now, one of the big terrible things is that the seasons are changing, which means less food. Eventually, Boyd gets really frustrated with his visions and no one believing him. So he infects one of the monsters with his blood, saying, "My blood is your blood now," which actually killed one of the monsters. This led to an unfortunate chain of events. You see, after killing the monster, they extract all the fluid that they can from the monster to try to kill the other ones. But instead, that seemed to have changed the rules of the town, because now when people go to sleep, their dreams murder them. One particular person, Reggie, lost a loved one and blames Boyd. That same night, Randall, Marielle, and Julie go into a horror-like coma. That's when both Elgin and Sarah tell Boyd that those three don't have very long to live. This sends Tabitha, Boyd, and Jade on a mission to try to save those three. Tabitha believes that if she goes to the tower that she's been seeing in her dreams and save the kids that were trapped, that her kid will be saved as well. Jade believes that if he gets more answers on the symbol he's been seeing, maybe the kids will be safe, so he goes into the tunnels underneath the town, where he did see the symbol again, but doesn't really look like it did anything. Boyd goes back to where he met Martin, but before he could get there, Reggie stops him and shoots him with a shotgun. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal and he unalived Reggie and destroyed the music box to save those three. Unfortunately, Tabitha, with the help of Victor, gets to the tower. When she gets to the top of the tower, the kid dressed in all white pushes her off, telling her it's the only way. The season then ends with Tabitha waking up in a hospital in the real world. Season 3 picks up exactly where Season 2 ended, where Tabitha is in the hospital in Maine. She quickly finds out that Victor's father is in that same town and meets up with him.
Coincidence? I think not!
Long story short, Victor's father believes her, but before they could do anything about it, they end up in a car accident. Ambulance that saves their life ends up running back into the town of From. This ends up being a good news, bad news situation. I'm a bad news first kind of guy, so bad news first. Before Tabitha rolled back into town, the creatures of the night absolutely mutilated Mama Chen. They also made Boyd watch in an attempt to break him. The good news is that Tabitha's back, and with a little bit more knowledge. Yay. Yeah, in all honesty, everything was actually pretty bad. You see, Boyd has had a rough season. Most people in town have lost trust in him. The creatures are hell-bent on tormenting him. His Parkinson's is actually getting worse. And there's actually a new cop in town by the name of Acosta, and she feels like she's worse than Randall, who's actually kind of a nice guy this season. He's actually been helping out a lot more than I give him credit for, and he got hurt in the process. This is because the creatures forced Boyd to face the trolley problem, and that was to save Tabitha, Jim, and Henry, or risk it all for Randall. He chose the former. Which brings us to what's happening to Julie, Randall, and Marielle. They apparently saw some crazy stuff while they were screaming their lungs out back in Season 2, but they won't tell anybody. But Julie, out of the three, is trying to figure out what's going on. She sort of discovers that she's a story walker. Stick with me. This, as described by her little brother Ethan, means that she can observe stories, but she cannot alter them. For example, she was there when Boyd got stuck in that chimney back in Season 2, and was actually the one that threw the rope down, not Martin, which means... I don't know. What we do know is that Jade, with the help of Tabitha, and Jim, who's finally trying to be a good husband to Tabitha, find out that the numbers in those bottles all over those trees are actually notes. Notes that, when played correctly, bring out the children that's been haunting Tabitha. These children that can only be seen by Jade and Tabitha tell them to remember. And so they do. And according to Tabitha, both her and Jade have been to that town before. She also said that in the previous life, when she was in town, she was Miranda, who's Victor's mother, and Jade was Christopher. And that's the reason why they can see the children, because they know what's happened to the children. And yeah, apparently what's happened to the children is that the people that used to be in this town sacrificed the children to some sort of creature in order to gain immortal life. And some of those people are those creatures that come out every night to try to haunt the townspeople. And that's a good time to pivot to the other side of the story, which is Fatima and Ellis. What I failed to mention in my previous recaps is that Fatima and Ellis are married and Fatima's pregnant. But the thing with this pregnancy is that Fatima is unable to eat regular food. Instead, she's eating a bunch of rotten food and human blood. This, rightfully so, freaks out both Ellis and Boyd. And while they're trying to figure out how to help her, she ends up killing Tilly, who just wanted to help her. So Boyd, Ellis, and Donna decide to keep it under wraps. Yeah, that's probably just a ticking time bomb. They tried hiding Fatima, but that's when Elgin comes into play. You see, Elgin here has been talking to a lady in a red kimono, who he believes is an angel.
This guy can't be serious.
So he kidnaps Fatima, locks her up in a cellar, and feeds her his own blood.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Which is what the baby needs to grow, and he believes that the baby will set them all free. Yeah, and that just about breaks Boyd because he hears that Elgin knows where Fatima is, but won't tell anybody. So Boyd tortures Elgin. But he wasn't going far enough, so Sarah takes matters into her own hand and absolutely destroys Elgin's eye. But she did get the information. Boyd, Ellis, and Kenny goes to save Fatima, but not before the lady in the red kimono helps Fatima deliver this baby, which the lady immediately takes down into a cave. You know, I've been calling this thing a baby this whole time. It's not a baby, because it grows within seconds into the creature that Boyd killed back in season 2, solidifying the fact that these things really are immortal. The season then ends with two very weird things happening. The first is that right after Jade got done playing that music, a man in yellow, he's just missing the hat, comes and attacks Jim. And he actually ends up killing Jim. The second thing actually happens right before this man in yellow actually kills Jim. And that is that a version of Julie appears and tries to save Jim from what's about to happen. And it's 100% not the current Julie because she actually has different hair, different clothes, and everything. And yeah, I hope I answered all of your questions, but if I didn't, be sure to leave a comment. I read them all. And if you like that video and want to see more like it, leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Also, if you like From, you may like this video right here. That's it.